Hey everyone, I'm Chris Herath.
And I'm Andy Wike.
And today we are here to discuss a topic that a lot of people have asked about in the comments section. I'm somebody who responds to a lot of the YouTube comments on our Smoking Pipes channel. And one of the questions a lot of people ask whether they're just getting into this pipe smoking hobby or they've been doing it for a little bit of time and they're starting to expand their pipe collection. A lot of people have asked Andy, should I go into corn cobs? Should I go into briar pipes? Or they see something like this on the site and they start reading a little bit about Meerschaum and they're curious about Meerschaum pipes. So I wanted to bring Andy on today to just discuss these three different types of pipe materials and just we could discuss how each one of us use it in our collection and really which one fills what pipe role in our collection. So Andy, what you're smoking on right now is probably one of the most common things people will see when they go to our Smoking Pipes website, and that's the briar pipe.
When we think about pipe making in a modern context, primarily what we're talking about is briar. Briar comes from the heath tree. It is what grows underneath the ground. It's the root or the burl. And then, of course, there's a whole micro business around harvesting and curing and cutting these burls of briar before they can ever make it into a pipe factory or workshop. This material really became common in the 1800s, mainly due to briar as a wood, its heat-resistant qualities, and it's hard, but it's not so hard that you can't shape it.
Yeah.
So it's fairly easy to work with now. If you've watched any sort of pipe making videos, like those guys make it look easy. Of course, it's not. You have to apply a great deal of pressure. It is sort of hard work, but you have a lot more variability with what the shape could be. And then, of course, you also have things like the natural grain patterns. I'm smoking a sandblasted pipe from Abe Herval, and it's a really cool shape, but then you also have these sort of micro textures all across the pipe.
Yeah.
And that's the ring grain coming through after sandblasting, getting rid of some of the softer material on the briar's face. And so you get a really nice sort of texture. I like sandblasted finishes. I think that they have a tactile quality that's really nice. But then, of course, you also have rusticated, which is sort of a carved technique, just depending on the maker. There's lots of different tools that people use to produce that finish, and it can come in many different shapes and forms. But then, of course, you have the smooth pipes. Smooth pipes are really nice because you get an expression of the natural wood's grain in a way that you just don't get on this pipe from Chris's Stereo, for example. You have an entire field of bird's eye on the fore there with really nice cross grain just going down the either side.
Yeah, and I would say not that the next two we're going to get into don't have their own type of artistic expression, but the briar pipe, because of what you touched on, the ability to shape it, the ability to do really unique things with it is what most people think of when they're thinking of something really special with a briar pipe. But briar pipe also has the really big distinction of being something that is going to be could be an heirloom item that you could actually pass along to somebody. We have pipes on site that are briar pipes that are over 100 years old. So it's really one that not only does it take an artistic standpoint, but it's also probably the one that you're going to keep in your collection literally forever.
Oh yeah, I mean, you and I have been to the Peterson factory and seen Charles Peterson's personal pipe, and it's it's a little rough around the edges, but I mean, it's still functional. It still is a really nice pipe, and so I think that when it comes to briar pipes, are really should be viewed as sort of permanent installments in your smoking rotation.
It's functional art. I've heard that since I started here a few years ago. I've heard that term thrown around, and it really is. It's something functional first in many cases, but you can smoke it, put your favorite tobacco in it, but it also, especially with the artisan carvers, it's such a work of art. Everybody has their own take on it. Yeah. Whether that's the smooth finish showing off all the crazy grain, all the way to individual carvers having their own personal style of rustication or sandblast. So can you talk to us a little bit about does it have advantages over one or the other when it comes to like breaking it in or heat or is there anything we should be aware of if you're just getting your first briar pipe?
Yeah, I mean, like it is wood, and so it will burn. So it's important to just be mindful as you're lighting the pipe. You obviously don't want to use a torch flame or any sort of hard flame lighter or anything like that when you're applying a charring light. A lot of people, as they're breaking in briar pipes, tend to pack their bowls not all the way full. And sort of the thinking behind that is that if you can start building that cake, and then you don't smoke all the way to the bottom, you just sort of like get that initial sort of, first couple bowls of carbonizing in the chamber. I don't do that.
Okay.
And I don't know of many people, who I work with closely who do that. I think that there's something charming about the sort of natural flavor of briar as it builds that carbonization. So I've never personally had oh man, I'm really trying to get through this break-in period because, I think that you will get some of that characteristic of the wood as you're first enjoying a couple smokes. But, of course, there's things like bowl coating and things like that that can help sort of expedite the break-in process.
Yeah, we won't get into that, but I know when I first started getting into briar pipes, I kind of wanted to know everything that I would possibly need to know about it. Of course, I reached out to Shane, and I was like, hey, man, I got this new pipe. Is there anything I should know? And he's like, nope, just smoke it. So I think that's a good thing for all of us to live by. So, Andy, another question we get a lot about briar pipes is on the issue of ghosting. And what ghosting means is the residual flavor from a previous blend you smoked. A lot of people, when they think about ghosting, they'll most likely think about maybe an English blend, maybe something with the Lakeland style to it, that they have a specific briar pipe for that type of tobacco. A lot of people have an English pipe, they'll have a Virginia pipe. Can you just kind of touch on that, just so the audience knows, is this something they have to worry about? Is it something that you should have a pipe for each?
I think it really depends on your preference. So, I mean, the traditional sort of guidance is that, if you smoke a variety of different types of pipe tobaccos, you might want separate pipes for each of those tobacco families. If you smoke an aromatic blend that's, heavily topped or something in a briar pipe, your next couple of smokes will probably be affected by that smoke. You'll probably get some of the lingering aroma or flavor from the aromatic, just due to the carbonization on the inside of the chamber. I don't really worry about it.
Okay.
And I might be unique in this, but I sort of find it, again, charming when I can experience a little bit of the last bowl in the next one. It does, it changes the experience. Now, if I want a true expression of this blend without any sort of biases, I'm going to reach for a pipe that I know doesn't have a ghost.
Yeah.
I've never smoked blends with really strong aromas or flavor profiles, something like Latakia, anything with a heavy amount of Latakia, something that's more aromatic. I tend to not reach for those pipes when I want a true expression of the blend. But for everyday smoking, I sort of just pick what pipe calls to me.
Yeah.
I know that sort of sounds abstract and, maybe a little bit I don't know,
Yeah, the only reason I worry about ghosting is because it gives me another excuse to buy a new pipe.
It's a good reason. It's a good reason.
For me, my first 3 pipes I ever purchased were briar pipes, and really it wasn't out of needing more of a rotation. It wasn't, anything with the ghosting or anything that. It was just more pipes were attracting me just from a visual standpoint.
Yep.
I was experimenting with. That's the great thing about briar pipes. They come in so many different shapes and sizes, bowl depth, bowl width. So
colors, stem materials.
Yeah. So more so than anything to worry about, it was just, hey, I just wanted these things in my collection because I like them. I was learning so much about the stems that I preferred, all that stuff, rather than anything I was actually concerned about. So if you're looking to choose a briar pipe, I always tell people just seek out something that really your eye gravitates towards.
Yeah.
Rather than like what you may read is the best for what kind of tobacco you may or may not like.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like, especially if you're just starting out, like, more than likely, like, your tastes are going to evolve.
of course, yeah, mine have.
You know, like,
2 years.
I started with aromatics and then quickly moved to Virginia blends. And then I found English blends, and I just smoked Englishes for like 4 years straight.
Yeah.
And then I got back into Virginias. If I would have built my collection around this stuff, like, I just wouldn't have been as timeless.
Yeah.
So my own pipe buying is very much what you described it. I'm looking for what speaks to me. I'm looking for a pipe that takes on some of my style, that I could see it fitting in my rotation. Like, I have some sort of heuristics that I follow, like I want a certain chamber size, or I want it to be under a certain weight, or I'm looking for like this specific type of stem. But those are sort of preferences that you develop over time. And that's the beautiful thing about pipe collecting anyway, is that it can be dynamic. It's ever changing. It's ever evolving. It's okay to fall out of love, for lack of a better word, with a pipe and trade it in and get something else. I mean, you're passing that on as an opportunity for someone else to find enjoyment.
Yeah, and a lot of my Briar pipe selection has also been when I just grab one. If I'm leaving here and going to grab one, it might be because it's a sitter, and I know I have to do something where I'll be sitting my pipe down, like poker. So a lot of my pipe choice is just based on the situation that I'll be smoking the pipe in.
Yeah.
I've got 2 young children, and so if I'm grabbing a pipe at home, it's probably going to be something that I'm going to have a very short smoke in.
Sure.
Where if I'm sitting at my desk editing a video, that could be something where I want something I can puff on for the next couple hours. So a lot of my Briar pipe choice is just based on situation and visual.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think if I'm analyzing my own collection, like, Briar pipes are my daily drivers. That is what I reach for the most. Everything else is a little bit more situational.
Yep. So let's get into what we would choose in that situation. So the next type of pipe material we're going to talk about is the Meerschaum pipe. And this was a pipe that I probably got into after I had 4 or 5 Briar pipes. And for me, it may not be the reason everybody gets into it, but for me, I'm somebody who's very attracted to the idea of patina in an object. I like that in leather. I like that in denim, all the different types of weird niche hobbies that I'm into. And when I saw a very well-aged Meerschaum pipe, I was like, I have to get one of these fresh, and I have to do this on my own. So tell us a little bit about Meerschaum pipes. What's the history behind these? And do you have any in your collection?
Yeah, I mean, Meerschaum is actually like one of the older pipe making materials. It does predate Briar as a pipe making material. Now, if you go way back, there was actually like a pretty big like culture of pipe makers doing some really elaborate Meerschaum carved pipes in Austria. And this was, I mean, I wouldn't know off the top of my head the exact dates, but I want to say like the early 1800s. And eventually that sort of wound down, and now Meerschaum is, like, Meerschaum pipes are produced exclusively in Turkey. But you still have like a lot of really awesome artisans that are producing really interesting stuff, all the way from like a classic sort of English billiard like you have there to the sort of wild freehand carved sort of anthropomorphic sort of carvings there. I've seen a lot of Meerschaums in my day, and none of them have been the same.
Wow.
So that's really cool. I mean, the material itself is really interesting.
Very interesting. Very light as well.
Yes.
Which I don't think that I picked up when I was looking at pictures and just things like that on the internet for it. I didn't realize how light it was until you really get it in your hand. You're like, wow, this is like not much more than the stem, it feels like.
Sure. Yeah, I think, and it also depends. So you have basically 2 different types of Meerschaum. You have compressed Meerschaum, and then you have solid block Meerschaum. The compressed version is, you don't really see it that often because it's sort of on the more budget end, like some of the more like sort of starter pipes and things like that. It's basically like if you were to create like a particle board kind of thing with
this
material. But the one you have there and the one, that I have in my little case here, as well as the figurals that I mentioned, those are all carved by hand from solid block Meerschaum.
Okay.
So as far as I can recall, I think almost I can't think of a Meerschaum pipe that we sell that isn't solid block.
Okay.
But it's really interesting because when you mine this stuff, you wet it and it becomes very malleable. It almost becomes like clay.
Interesting.
And so you can really add a lot of detail to it. You
Yeah.
can shape it. You can form it into a classic shape. You can do, I have sort of a little demi churchwarden here.
Very cool.
That has some paneling on it, and it's a nice feeling hand. But they are light. I think that there's a misconception because if this was clay,
Yeah.
it would be much heavier.
Yeah.
And it does sort of look like clay, but the material itself is actually a mineral called sepiolite.
Okay.
And yeah, it's mined, and then it's wet and moistened, and then it's sort of shaped, and then of course it's cured. And once it's cured, everything is set.
Okay.
You can't really go back. So you sort of fire it in a kiln, and sort of the same way you would do those sorts of things. But once it's dry, it's a really interesting material for pipe making because it's extremely heat resistant.
Okay.
So it's really, really difficult to burn out a Meerschaum. Don't try it at home. Don't try it at home, but you typically don't have to have as much care in your lighting and
Yep.
your cadence and things like that. It's also porous, which means that over time it will absorb some of the natural nicotine and oils and moisture from the smoke, and that's where that
It's a
coloration comes from.
it actually, Shane, for example, uses Meerschaums a lot when tasting a new blend.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that is it produces a very cool smoke, and there's not a lot of moisture buildup
Yeah.
that you would have in a Briar pipe.
And it's flavor neutral.
Yes.
It's flavor neutral. I mentioned earlier that when you're breaking in a Briar pipe, it is a wood. You will get some of that sort of charred wood notes in the beginning until you build up a proper cake. But with Meerschaum, you just don't develop that layer of carbon
Yep.
on the inside of the bowl. And so you typically do get a more flavor neutral, pure, true expression, if you want to say that, of whatever you're smoking.
Yeah, for me, the Meerschaum pipe, for example, is one that I picked up before my first pipe show because I had heard that people would have a lot of different type of tobaccos you would want to try. You may be trying things back to back, not a lot of rest period in between smoking bowls of tobacco. You might be going English to Virginia type of thing. And I was like, man, that Meerschaum just sounds like a great option for a situation like this. Or if I'm going on a trip, I'll be taking an English blend, a Virginia blend, maybe a Virginia Perique blend as well. I just put it in this case it came with, throw it in my bag, and I know I have a very versatile pipe that's going to handle pretty much every situation I throw at it.
Yeah, I mean, earlier you mentioned the patina and how, Meerschaum pipes can naturally color over time.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things that I think is I could have that identical pipe, Chris, and the coloration would be different because it doesn't just come from the smoke. It also comes from the natural oils in your hand, how you hold the pipe. And so over time, it really does, you imprint on the pipe. So not only is it this heirloom that you can pass down, but it also has a unique coloring that you've helped develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's obviously the first thing that drew me to this. And it's still probably the thing that keeps me coming back to it. I love the idea that every time I pull this out of the case, I just see what I've kind of put into it, and it really makes me excited for the future. So if it's something that you really like the idea of aging along with your pipes and really putting your own stamp on something, Briar pipes do this to a certain degree as well, as far as coloring and stuff, especially the lighter stain ones. But Meerschaum is going to be the one that it's really a really cool project pipe.
Yeah, and I mean, if the patination and coloring is important, we do also offer coloring bowls, which are sort of attachments to a Meerschaum pipe that can help you create a more even coloring across the pipe. And I think we have some articles about coloring bowls. You guys can go check them out. But that's something that you can add, and some of them are quite ornate
Yeah.
and like very elaborately carved because they're also from solid block Meerschaum. So you get a lot of variation there. I mean, it's a fun thing to experiment with. Like I reach for my Meerschaum pipes, you know, a lot of times for aromatics.
Yep, same.
Or for English blends or something where it's like I don't necessarily want to reach for one of my Briar pipes, or maybe they're, you know, sort of resting or on rotation. I'll grab a Meerschaum.
Yep, absolutely. So the last category we're going to talk about here today is one that I didn't grab initially.
Mm-hmm.
It was first the Briar. I think it was even then the Meerschaum next. But then when I was looking to go camping and I was looking for a few pipes that I wanted to take with me,
Mm-hmm.
I finally gave corncob pipes a chance, and now they have stayed in my rotation.
Mm-hmm.
They're one of those things that I was hesitant to try at first, but now like I don't know if my pipe smoking rotation could exist without them.
Yeah, I think corn cobs are great, especially if you're new to the hobby
Yeah.
and you want to start developing an actual pipe rotation, an actual pipe collection. This can help you get there without a serious upfront investment.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, these are more like accessibly priced than Briar and Meerschaum pipes.
Yeah.
They're made from actual corn cobs. You know, like Missouri Meerschaum, longtime friends of smoking pipes. We love those guys to death. I mean, they're a solid, true American manufacturer.
Yeah.
You know, they have roots dating back to the 1800s. I mean, they've really just continued to preserve the legacy of corncob pipes, which are, you know, if we look at pipe smoking in popular culture or media, like it's, you know, a lot of times it's the sort of gourd calabash that
Sure.
we see, or it's a corncob pipe.
Yep,
You know,
of
you
course.
can think about people like MacArthur, you know,
Yeah.
some of the others like Popeye, you know.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to say Popeye, but Popeye, the character who loves spinach,
Frosty the Snowman.
yeah, Frosty the Snowman. You know, these are all sort of icons that they had a pipe in their mouth, and that pipe was typically a corn cob.
Yeah, and all characters and jokes aside, and those were probably some of the reasons that I didn't initially gravitate towards the corn cob, but I was gifted one, I believe, and took it camping with me, and immediately I really loved it. It was something that I could revisit throughout the day. It was something I wasn't afraid to try blends in for ghosting reasons. I wasn't afraid to break it and be out over $100 or $200 like I would be on a Briar pipe or a Meerschaum pipe. It's literally something I keep in my golf bag. It's something I keep in my garage. If the kids are around and I'm just doing yard work, I don't have to worry about breaking something that's expensive. So like those are some of the major advantages that I would see in having multiple corn cobs in your collection.
Yeah, and there's so many different styles too. I mean, like we have this C&D Missouri Meerschaum collab pipe, but then also this Old Dominion. And the Old Dominions are sort of cool because they're more rustic.
Yeah.
And they also have reed stems, which are sort of interesting. Like I smoked these like crazy.
Really?
Yeah. There was a period in my life. This was like around where when Black Sails was still airing, that I would just have like this ritual where I would smoke, like whenever the actual episode came out, I would smoke Sam Gal with Navy Flake.
Okay.
And only Sam Gal with Navy Flake. I don't know what was like. I was super focused on that blend. I would smoke that in a Old Dominion corncob pipe while I was watching the show, and it was just like this crazy experience. I don't know if I would have had the same experience from a Briar or Meerschaum pipe.
Makes sense.
Like I really liked it felt like I was smoking something that they would have smoked.
Yeah.
But also like just all the flavors from Navy Flake, particularly in a cob, I thought went really well.
Yeah, and for me, I actually have, I think, 5 of these unsmoked at my house. Sometimes I'll have friends over and I'll be smoking a pipe, like watching some sporting event or something like that, and they're like, hey, I've never smoked a pipe before. It's like, great, let me give you something that you can try. It's like $5 to $10. They can take it with them.
Yep.
And you might have created another like pipe smoking friend.
Yeah. No, they're super great for that. I try to have a couple in my bag for that exact reason. If I'm around folks who, you know, like we often enjoy cigars together or something, like, but they've never tried a pipe, like I could, you know, share this experience with them without necessarily, you know, like you don't really want to hand over your really nice artisan pipe that has beautiful straight grain and silver to someone who's never smoked before. It has bad results from experience. I will just say it's tragic. But corncob pipes are a great way of sharing this experience.
Of course.
Know, like pipes aren't really like cigars in the sense that you can just hand them out to your friends.
Right.
So having a couple corn cobs on your person is just a really good way of like, hey, I'm smoking this. Would you like to try it? I also use them for trying different blends. So because the chamber sizes are often smaller than what you would get in a Briar or Meerschaum pipe, I find them to be exceptional tasting pipes. And they're, you know, I think Missouri Meerschaum even offers like a line of very small tasting pipes. But that's a really cool thing because if you're just developing your taste and you're not really sure which blends you like or what families you like, or you're just sort of developing your palate, having a bunch of corncob pipes on hand gives you a nice way of just, you know, you can order a couple ounces in bulk of various things and then just try them. And then from there you can start building up your tobacco collection, your cellar, with what you like. But you might not want to devote, you know, an entire bowl to something, or if you don't like it, like you could just dump it out. It's not a big deal. Also, if you drop it and it breaks, like you're not out like, you know, a crazy amount. I also think that they smoke exceptionally
very well.
Like I think Missouri Meerschaum in particular, the engineering work that they do, I think is great. I find that corn cobs, especially initially, have a sweeter smoke to them. I think there's something about the corn and maybe the sugars that are still in there. So I find them to be, you know, if we're matching it with blends and stuff, like a drier burley blend, like, and by dry, I mean the lack of sweetness. Like if it's a, you know, something like C&D's Redburn, an exceptional blend, man, does it smoke well in a cob.
Interesting.
It smokes so well in a cob. And I think it's because, and it might just be my perception, but I do get a little bit more sweetness out of that blend in a cob versus a Briar.
Okay. And that's the great thing about all of these choices and this hobby in general, is the ability to experiment. Try it in different chamber sizes, try it in different pipe styles, different materials, and you may be surprised with the different results you're going to get. So hopefully this gives you guys an understanding of these 3 different type of materials that's used in pipe making. We have all 3 available on site. I think it's something you should have one of these in your rotation. And it's not a versus, it's more of a, they all fill a different role.
100%. I mean, like my own personal collection, I know yours, Shane's, there are pipes of all different shapes, sizes, and materials. We gravitate to what calls to us. You know? It's not that Briar pipes are better than Meerschaums or better than corn cobs. I mean, and it's not even that there's more variety. I mean, I think the stuff that Missouri Meerschaum's done recently with stem materials and accents and finishes are very artisanal. I mean, like it's really pushing the boundaries of what we think about as a corn cob pipe. And so you can still get a lot of variety. You can still get a lot of choice. Any of these are great additions to your collection.
Of course. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe for more pipe-related content here at Smoking Pipes.
We'll see you next time, guys. Thanks.